Okay, so basically we can see there, this is the grammar we are starting today. This is the grammar of the introduction. And here you can see that the relative clause we'll be discussing with you. So first of all, like the rule of comma over here, if we have basically a non-defining clause, the way it has been written over here, we are not supposed to use, we are supposed to use the comma over here and over here. But if you have a defining clause, such as this one, and you have continuous sentence and stop our knee replacement, then we can see there, we should be, you can say, we should not be using any comma over here. So just a grammar rule, okay? Right, anyhow. So next we can say, the next sentence is the, I'm writing to refer Mr. X, a 48-year-old man, a 48-year-old accountant. So now here, this is what we can say is a positive noun. A noun, a positive noun is basically defining the quality of the noun. So maybe we can write down the age, maybe we can write down the designation or the profession, or maybe the social status as per requirement of the letter. So we can write it down. I'm writing to refer Mr. X, a 48-year-old man who presented with, you can say, sign and symptoms suggestive of Alzheimer's disease for further management. This rule remains the same, but I just have incorporated the positive noun so that you can see in the very first statement of the introduction, you can give a good impression to the examiner that you have the density in your grammar. You are adding the defining or non-defining clauses, and whatever you are adding, you are not making any grammatical mistake. Number one. Number second thing is that would be appropriate for you to add more spices to the flavor in this way, that, by adding the positive noun, like it will be really helpful for you to bring it up like your grammar skills. Okay. So the two things that we discussed in the grammar portion, the first one is the relative clause, either defining and non-defining with the punctuation rule. And the positive noun is always being, like separated with the comma. The few statements, let's say I'm writing to refer, or thank you for seeing, or I'll discuss with your receptionist, whatever. These are the convention. So these are the conventional statement, can be used any of those statement, but this is the major thing in the portion of the introduction. To pop it up, like, we should be polite in our writing introduction when we are making a request, right? And we should have the relevant register or tone when we are making the request, right? Anyhow, afterward, we can see that we have the tenses introduction. So for next 3 to 4 slides, or maybe 2 to 3 slides, I just try to make those slides for you people so that you can easily understand that which tense is more appropriate. Although you have to be flexible, it's not, you can see that just stick with this guideline. You have to be flexible as per the case, you can modify. But generically speaking, most of the time, these guidelines will be effective for you to transform your case notes. So tenses in the introduction, you can see in case of referral letter, we mostly use present simple tense, or at time present perfect or perfect continuous, and also we can use the past simple tense as well. Let's say few example, minus thank you for seeing, or I'm writing to refer. We can see over here whose sign symptoms are suggestive of. So now this is the rule of the grammar we discussed. Sign and symptom are suggestive of. Are suggestive mean it's a present simple tense. I am using this referral letter and I'm adding with the present simple tense, right? Similarly, in the next example, I just have used, you can say, one statement over here. I'd like to correct over here. Okay. Okay. So basically, this is something, just have corrected, sorry for that, who has been unresponsive to the treatment of unilateral headache. So it's the present perfect in the passive voice form. I have used the present perfect tense in the introduction, but in the passive voice form. And also that is, like the clause, but I'm not discussing at the moment. I'm just discussing about the tenses in the introduction. So you can see. Similarly, we can also use the past simple with the example I've quoted over here, who presented today, whatever. Okay, so you can see that in the referral introduction, we can either use the present simple, present perfect, or perfect continuous. Let's say who has been suffering from diabetes mellitus, or sorry, who has been having unilateral pain or unilateral headache for the last 2 weeks. For that, he need your expertise and your assessment to make the final diagnosis, right? Anyhow, so these are few examples that will help you first to understand that how can you write down the introduction, even if you are new to the class today. And secondly, we are more specific in the grammar portion, unlike the first few classes when we were not more specific to the grammar portion, when we were specific to the selection of the case notes or to the focus of the writing. But in this class, we are not focusing on the content or the focus of the writing. We are just having a focus on the range of grammatical structure that you can use, so that you might be able to eliminate, like your errors. Okay, your error. Okay, so afterward we can move on toward the discharge introduction. In case of discharge introduction, we would see that most of the time we will be writing past simple tense, because you can see in the introduction, either the referral or the discharge, we mostly have, like two things. The first thing, maybe that you have made a diagnosis, and second thing, the further line of action that has to be done. That is the problem and the line of action. Okay, or let's say diabetes is a suspected diagnosis, and the line of action is further management. Similarly, for a discharge letter, you know, for a discharge letter, we can see that we can write it down the thing that has been done for you, such as we had the surgery. So we can write it down. I'm writing this letter of discharge. Who underwent the past simple, let's say, and then we have this is the polite request. In the modal verb in the future form, who has responded well, present simple, or maybe who has been treated for, you can say present perfect passive voice form, or who has been responding well. Again, it's your you can say present perfect passive voice form. So you can see that in the discharge letter, it can also be written in the form of you can say past simple, present perfect, and at time it can be in the present simple as well. Let's say I'm writing this letter of discharge, or I'm writing this letter regarding this patient who is due to be discharged, let's say today. So we can use in the present simple tense at the same time. So these are a few examples that I've quoted in front of you. I hope it will help you somehow. And if you like to ask any question, you can ask me anytime on the message. Anyhow, so then we can move on toward the next thing, that is social plus past medical history. Relevance is different thing, where to write social plus past medical history. That is a debatable thing we can discuss. We have discussed already, and we will discuss again in the letter correction. If it's relevant in a referral letter, we can write it down after introduction. But if it's not relevant, we will write it down where it's appropriate, right? Anyhow, sorry. So tenses in social plus past medical history or family history paragraph, you can see, let's say habits and hobbies. Mostly we write in the present simple tense without the time frame. If there is no time frame mentioned, we write it down in the present simple tense if we have the habits or hobbies, right? Similarly, if we have the you can say habits and hobbies, but we have the time frame being mentioned, such as smoker drinker for 10 years, diabetes from 2010. So now we can translate these case notes into the form that will adopt basically present perfect tense. For example, he has been a smoker and drinker for the last 10 years, okay? Or he has had diabetes since 2010. So few example that how can we use present perfect continuous tense when we are discussing about the social plus past medical history paragraph. Normally we do write in the present tense, either present perfect continuous, or either the present simple tense. At time, quite rarely, we can also incorporate the past simple tense or maybe the past perfect tense. Let's say he had appendectomy. He had the removal of lump, let's say blah blah years back. Now we can use the past simple tense in the social history paragraph, right? Okay, I'll repeat. Okay. So basically, next thing is the treatment record. And in the treatment record, we have the let's say, or it's in case of referral letter, we have the treatment record, and in case of ward or rehab, in case of discharge, we have ward or rehab. So what we can see, and in here, if you go on onto the referral letter, like in this case, we have 2 to 3 visits that I'm just labeling it as a treatment record. You need to understand that there will be, you need to summarize, the significant treatment trend. You have to highlight the promising symptoms, such as if there is a progression of disease. Accordingly, you have to highlight something, or accordingly, you have to summarize those details. And in case of ward or rehab, like the ward details are relatively less relevant. However, you have to highlight something significant. And the rehab details, for example, again, is more relevant from ward and less relevant from the discharge plan. So if we can see or approach toward the referral letter, what we can understand is that, you must add anything that will be helpful for the person for whom you're writing this letter, okay, healthcare professional, who has to further manage this case, or maybe who has to make or confirm the diagnosis. You need to add all those information that would be helpful for him, first to diagnose the patient, and number second, to manage the case. So even if it's you can say your treatment record, or maybe the trend of the investigations, or maybe it's your symptom trend, or maybe like if the patient examination and so on. Accordingly, you would highlight and add those information that would be more relevant to make the diagnosis and the further management, right? So we must focus on the symptoms, we must focus on the investigation, and we must focus on the examination if there is any. That would be helpful tool for the specialist to make the diagnosis. As a matter of fact, in the referral letter, we always see that the most recent history is more important. So logically speaking, if it's a progression of problem, like all the disease started from first visit and it's ongoing, so the first few visits should be summarized and the last few visits would be expanded. However, we are talking about maybe those portion of the referral letter minus today, because we have the significant information in the today's letter. So if we have 2 visits or 3 visits or maybe 4 visits or maybe 5 visits, whatever it is, we can summarize them down. And the tense that we can use, it would be majorly past simple. We can see in our writing tasks in the either in your referral or the discharge letter mostly. However, at time we can use the past perfect. So as I mentioned in the very beginning of the lecture, that you must be flexible. You must be flexible in the transition or the transformation of the case notes. According to the case notes will compel you, like which tense should be used in at which part, right? Right? Is it clear to you? Okay. So afterward, we can see, afterward, we can see there that we do have some other, we can say, uh, uh, let's say, we can see there, for example, few example, in front of you, initially on this date, Mr. Andrew visited with the complaints of mild abdominal pain. It's the past simple. And transition, he had 2 episodes, because this is the near past, like he visited you, and the 10 days back, and even a day before, like maybe in the last 30th date. So these are the past perfect tense, right? So you can use 2 tenses in the paragraph as per the importance. Similarly, if you are summarizing the treatment record in case of referral, over a period of 3 weeks, Mr. Alex had visited us 3 times with mild existential chest pain. All of his investigation, including ECG, were normal, past simple, except exercise tolerance test, which revealed some ischemic changes. So past simple. Then how can we use in the transition? Similarly, for the discharge letter, we can use he had uneventful stay in the ward, except he had blood transfusion. Both time I used in the past perfect. and he was becoming gradually independent, stable. In more recent history, therefore, he was shifted to the rehabilitation. It will showing the transition in time where the rehabilitation program has helped. Now, I have written in the present perfect tense. I'm writing in the same paragraph. Remember that. Now, you can see the transition in the tenses. Past perfect, past continuous, like past simple can be used in the same time, and then present perfect. So it will differentiate like first word and then the rehabilitation, right? Anyhow, followed by the we can say today's visit or maybe discharge plan and the conclusion. Mostly we can see there that in the referral letter of today visit, in the referral letter, we can use the past simple. Simply, he presented with the same complaint along with, let's say, blurred VN. It can be written in the present simple tense. Followed by today's consultation. In today's consultation, we can see that his condition has worsened. For example, you can see it's the present perfect tense, right? Then you can see the plan. The plan part, if you can see that mostly in a referral plan, not a discharge plan, I like to highlight this thing. In a referral plan, we would prefer to write it down, passive voice form of the present perfect tense because the thing has been done. It's your job being a GP to or being a, like say, the ward nurse or the community nurse when you are referring this patient. So you have to do, let's say, those things because you are referring this person higher in hierarchy from you. So here, he has been transferred to the emergency department, right? Or GTN patch has been applied and intravenous morphine has been given. We can use in the present perfect, but in passive voice form. Like can be used in the conclusion part of the introduction. In discharge letter, mostly discharge letter, the plan can be written in the conclusion, and the tense we use, it should be future tense. We can also use the present simple, and also we can incorporate with modal verbs. Most of the time would and should could be used. Let's say she's vitally stable and is ready to be discharged. So you can see that I've used the present simple tense. I would really appreciate if you could ensure that he can be assisted for her home care, maybe separately, or I can use therefore over here, and I'm using the modal verb. Then with another example, she will be discharged tomorrow as he has recovered. Not present perfect. His discharge medical includes, you can see present simple tense. So how you can see the transition of tenses can be applied on the letter at different place for your better understanding, right? Anyhow, now we can discuss specifically like what the present perfect tense is. So with some example, if you like to ask any question, please feel free to ask. You can see that we'll be discussing about the present perfect. To give you a brief insight, present perfect can be used for an event that started in the past and it just finished in the present. We can use the present perfect. And in the progressive form of the present perfect, progressive form means and it still continues, starting in the past. So we can use the ing form of the verb with that, with has been or have been. Anyhow, so let's say when we have to describe a period of time without being knowing exactly the start of the time, we can use for with that. When we know exactly the start of the time, we can use since with that. And our can be used when we have to use it for the repetition or change in the event, right? Let's say over a period of 2 weeks, he has visited us thrice. So it's a repetition with mild existential chest pain. Or over the period of 2 weeks, his condition has been worsening, like that. Can be used like that, right? So we have some example for over, for since, and for, right? The present perfect tense, we can, it's one of the most or widely used tense in the OET writing. Followed by the past perfect tense. The past perfect tense mostly can be used, like in combination with, you can say, with the past simple tense. In combination with past simple tense, okay? So we have to see that, let's say, we can use like he had not been able to conceive over the previous 4 months. As a result, she was suffering from depression. For example, we can also use, let's say, Mr. XYZ had attended physio session. However, his stiffness did not improve, right? So can use two tenses together as an example. So these are a few examples for your reference. Anyhow, So we can see and move on toward the articles. In articles, we have to see that we have countable and uncountable noun. In case if we have countable noun, in case if we have a countable noun, now countable noun do start with the, countable noun and singular, we have to use article with that, right? We have to use article with that if it's a countable noun. So for example, you can see there, if we have something such as abscess, we have lump, for example, we have to see even fever, because these are episodic, is a countable noun, right? uh, Afterward, you can see that we have to understand, if there is an uncountable noun, we cannot use any article with that, and even with plural, we cannot use any article with that, right? Similarly, we can use an if it's give you vowel sound. You can use an with that. Let's say MRI, X-ray. We can use an. The example of definite articles, when we have to specify something, or if you are mentioning this thing for second time, we can use article da with that. And moving on toward the point that the body parts can be, we can use the article or his or her with that, like that, right? So there is no definite article with the disease. We cannot use the before the disease. And there are a few examples that has been discussed in front of you. Anyhow, moving on toward the capitalization rule. Generically speaking, when we have a proper noun, we can use the capital letter, the first one, capital letter. And the common noun, we can use the lowercase. Specifically speaking, for medication, if it's a brand name or trade name, we can use the first letter capital. And if we have a salt name, we cannot use the first letter capital, but we have to write it down first letter in the lowercase. Okay. Similarly, for the medical condition such as disease, if it's name against the scientist, such as your Alzheimer, Parkinson, Bell palsy, Cushing syndrome, we can use the first letter capital. And if it's the normal condition, such as you can say diabetes, like say bowel cancer, let's say inflammatory bowel disease, we can use the first letter in the lowercase. Job titles will be written in the capital letter. However, even the hospital address, hospital name should be written in the capital letter, right? So these are a few examples that has been discussed in front of you. And my medical procedure should be written in the lowercase, body part, lowercase, days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, lowercase, uppercase, for example. Special days such as Christmas Day is the uppercase, and the months and years should be written in the lowercase, right? Anyhow, these are a few examples. Now, active to passive transformation, though we prefer to write it down, like in passive wise, but as per the case notes, you have to modify your active to passive wise. It's not you should write intentionally. It's your case note will dictate you. For example, if I would say you can say the thing is I prescribe him laxative. Let's say I prescribe him laxative. Yeah, I advise him to take laxative, and requested him to see me again after 2 days so that we can understand if there is a relief in the constipation, right? Anyhow, that is followed by the next part. Let's say a laxative is being taken by her on daily basis. Now I'm focusing on the laxative. How laxative is being taken by her on daily basis. However, it's unable to relieve his or her constipation. Let's say now it's a function of the laxative. Now we can write it down. The patient focus. He has been advised to take. Yeah, he's being advised to take. He's being taking laxative on daily basis. Sorry, he has been advised to take laxative. However, he remained non-compliant. So accordingly, we can change active to passive transformation. The clauses portion, we have to use the complex sentences. We have contrast clause, such as we have some contrast. We prefer not to use but, time, and again. We can use although, despite, even though, however, by just replacing but with that. With few example, let's say although he has taken this medicine, his condition it has not been improving. Although he took this medicine, his condition is not improving, right? And so on. Despite the fact he had modified his lifestyle, his condition did not improve. According to the tenses, you can modify as well. Similarly, for purpose clause, we can say that in order to modify his lifestyle, he was advised to join gym, or in order to lose his weight, right, he was advised to modify his lifestyle, and so on. For the reason clause, we can use due to the fact, due to, because of, because of. So variety of the clauses can be used to enhance your writing skills. Compounding of the area can be done for the same area, such as smoker and drinker. We can use the conjunction and, but, and so to compound the area, let's say. And then we have the parallel sentences and balanced sentences. As the name indicate, parallel structures and the balanced sentence mean that you must have a, like the right form of the verb in the same sentence. If it's active voice, just use active voice. And present simple, just use present simple form. If it's passive voice, just use passive voice, and so on. There are a few examples that has been written in front of you. Let's say he was admitted in the hospital, passive voice, and was treated successfully, passive voice, right? Let's say he has been given, let's say he has been given 15 liter of oxygen, let's say, and has been prescribed blah blah medication, same form when you are writing, right? So this is your parallel structure, or the balance sentences. Balance mean in the two places of the sentence, you must use the same form of the verb, noun, or the gerunds and preposition as well, right? So lastly, we have the complex sentences. Complex sentences, as we already discussed about the contrast clause, we have discussed purpose clause and the reason clause. We have to use one dependent and one independent clause, such as here, although he has been taking painkiller, so it's your, you can say, dependent clause. His pain is not settling, is independent clause. So when we have the dependent clause first and independent afterward, we put comma. But if we can flip the order, his pain is not settling, although he has been taking painkiller, so we can use the without comma, we can use it, right? So the example of complex sentence and conditional sentence can be used when we have to summarize, right? Like when I have to close the letter. So I hope it's clear to you. So this is something we have given you a brief overview of the grammar.